verb forms are used to specify grammatical concepts such as causative, intensive, reciprocal, passive, or reflexive. They are augmentations of the roots. They reinforce the basic idea that the root originally suggests. Each form has a unique pattern that holds the radicals of the roots within the given order. So the first radical goes where fa goes, and the second where ain goes, and the third where lam goes. That's the way to generate the accurate meaning of words. Remember that fa, ain, lam are placeholders for the radicals of the roots. These patterns carry interpretations similar to how suffixes and prefixes mark conjugated verbs for person, number, and gender. Form 3 verbs fit an associative profile, as you know. They often have a meaning relating to acting on or with another entity. The two parties take part in the same action somehow. If we evaluate the verb samaha, with the connotation of forgiving someone for his mistakes or for his sins, it expresses an action directed at someone. Indeed, the subjects and the objects are linked to the same action word, but they don't share the same role. We have one scene and two roles: the forgiving and the forgiven within the forgiveness context. For such situations, we summon Form 3 verbs to the rescue. Let's find out how Form 3 verb conjugates in the present indicative. A mood that requires the sentence to be in its affirmative, interrogative, or negative form, and not preceded by some particles which necessitate the use of the subjunctive mood or the jussive mood. So this tense requires prefixes and suffixes, contrary to the past tense, which requires only suffixes. Let's see how this verb conjugates in the present indicative, starting with the first person personal pronoun أنا for the speaker. أنا أسامح. أنا أسامح. What happened to the stem? We know that the stem is سامح. سامح. So we have introduced the prefix U, the hamza that we have borrowed from أنا. أنا. The hamza is the prefix of أنا. So we have the hamza followed by the short vowel damma, usa, mi. And we have changed the fatha of the middle radical to kasra. And this is going to repeat within each subject pronoun, as you will see later. And we have changed the last vowel of the third radical of the root to damma, and the damma is the indicator of the nominative case of this tense, damma, usamihu. And the damma also is omnipresent with all the conjugations. So أنا أسامح الجميع. Alright? I forgive everyone. What about the first person plural? نحن. نحن, as you know, نحن is famous for its noons. And we did the same thing as we've done with أنا. We've borrowed the noon of نحن followed by a dhamma, and we put a dhamma at the end of the verb to mark the grammatical case of this tense. نحن نسامح. أنا أسامح. نحن نسامح الجميع. أنت, second person, masculine, singular. أنت, two, we have the ta of أنت followed by a dhamma. So the dhamma repeats. That's what we've been seeing up until now. So two, sa, mi, again, the kasra, that follows the second radical, and the ending is a dhamma, hu, anta tusamihu. Alright? What about anti? For anti, second person feminine singular, we have the same prefix as anta. But I cannot say the same thing for the suffix. We have a complicated suffix here. We have the ya of address, which is actually the subject of anti. Here, the subject is an implicit one. Alright? Here it's the ya of address. And of course, since ya is a long vowel, it has to be preceded by a kasra. That's the rule. Tusamihina. And the noon is the indicator of the nominative case. Not the dhamma as we've seen with these. It's the noon. The noon. I will mention something else later about it. So antuma, second person, dual for both genders. Antuma, again, we have the same repeating prefix, to. Alright? We have to, so we're following a pattern for second person. Tusami, hani, tusami hani. Here we need the dual alif of antuma to mark the suffix ani. Again, and we know that the long vowel alif has to be preceded by a fatha. That's another rule. Alright? So we have kasra ya, fatha, alif. So that alif is the subject of the verb, and the noon is the case marker, the nominative case marker. Alright? Antum, second person, masculine, plural. Antum. Again, the same prefix, to. Okay? Same prefix, to. Sami, huna. Here we have wow, wow. The collective wow, wow al-jama'a. And the wow here is the subject of tusamihuna. And the wow has to be preceded by a dhamma. So we have dhamma wow, fatha alif, kasra ya. And the noon is the indicator or the marker of the nominative case. تسامحون أنتما تسامحان dual ألف. أنت تسامحين. Alright? What about, so what we've seen here, that the same prefix to repeats with the second person. And أنتن, second person, feminine plural, to, again, تسامحن. تسامحن. And here, this is an indeclinable radical. It has a sukun. Okay? And the noon here, the noon is a marker of feminine plural. It's not like these ones, not like these noons. Those are categorized differently. But this noon is just a suffix referring to feminine plural, second person. And this is invariable, and because it doesn't change in form with the other moods. It keeps its form. And tunna and hunna, they keep the same form within the other. What about moods? Second person. Huma. Huma, second person. Let's start with masculine plural. So we said for أنتما, second person تسامحان هما, third person dual يسامحان. There is a change within the prefix from to you. So for third person we will have the prefix you instead of to. And the same, يسامحاني. The dual alif is the subject of the verb and the noon is the indicator of the nominative case. For أنتم we said تسامحونهم, third person masculine, plural, you. يسامحون, same thing, we just change the prefix from to you. And you know what we call أنت تسامحين, أنتما تسامحان, أنتم تسامحون, هما يسامحان, and its feminine version تسامحان, the five verbs. The five verbs. الأفعال الخمسة. And there is a lesson about them. I will put the link that you would check and learn about it. And for huma, when it's feminine, we put تسامحان, the to differentiate it from the masculine gender. So hunna يسامحان, even though it is feminine, as with hiya, because hiya is the third person singular feminine, and still we are using the to and not the you for the third person, for the feminine. And we did the same thing with the hunna. We didn't do the same thing. If we use the to, we won't be able to distinguish it from أنتن تسامحن. Alright? So here, even though it's the third person feminine singular, we're still using the ta. هو يسامح. Again, applying the same prefix as we've seen with these. هو يسامح. If we watch the behavior of this form with this tense, we can make some important observations. The omnipresent short vowel dhamma is characteristic of this tense. the presence of noon after the ya of address, the dual alif, and the waw of plurality is the indicator of the nominative case of this mood, the indicative mood. The ta is prefixed to the second person singular, dual, and plural conjugations, plus the third person feminine singular hiya and dual huma. Huma and hiya. The letter ya appears as a prefix with the third person masculine singular, masculine dual, both genders plural. The short vowel of the third radical of the stem is a kasra. And it happens within all these subject pronouns, with no exception. The second person singular masculine and the third person feminine masculine are identical. Did you see? أنت تسامح, هي تسامح. And the second person feminine plural أنتن, and the third person feminine plural hunna conjugations are indeclinable. The last radical of the stem has an inflected and with sukun, and the noon of the feminine plural is invariable within all the moods of this tense. This will stay within all the moods, this noon and this noon. But these ones, I'm not sure. They may disappear, come back. It depends of the situation. But these noons, we cannot get rid of them. These noons, even though they appear to be similar, they have a different function. This one represents this subject's pronoun, the noon of plural feminine, but this noon is the marker of the nominative case. Don't forget the 5 verbs. The 5 verbs. I would suggest that you check the lesson. And that's it for today. I hope it wasn't too much. See you soon. إلى اللقاء.